them where he started sucking on rocks. And now that they're all settling in, I'm going to feed them some different foods to see what they like. I'm going to give them 3 different rounds of foods, starting with some chunks of meat, which they slowly swam towards and started nibbling on.
Yum, yum, yum. Delicious. Yeah,
They were really hungry, so they're definitely enjoying this, but these animals are meant to be apex predators in the wild that hunt live animals. So for the next 2 rounds, I'm going to give them live animals so that they can learn to hunt. First, I'm going to add some tiny live fish. The Megalodon and Mosasaur seemed to instantly know to chase after them and enjoyed hunting and eating them up. The Kraken grabbed some with his long tentacles, and the Plesiosaur used its long neck to hunt down some of the fish that were hiding in tight spaces. But next, for their final round of eating, I gave them some krill that immediately started scurrying around the tank but were quickly hunted down. This shows us some early signs of each animal's hunting style, with the Mosasaur and Megalodon just straight up chasing the prey, the Plesiosaur using its neck to reach into small spaces, and the Kraken using its tentacles to grab the prey and take them on a fun adventure down into his mouth. Now, all 4 baby sea monsters have settled into their tank, and over the course of the next few months, they kept growing, and I noticed some cool stuff that they did. The Kraken ended up attacking and destroying the pirate ship, and grabbed onto everything else that I added in there. I was even able to hand feed the Plesiosaur out of the top of the tank, but not always. The sea monsters quickly got too large and started to fight for food and overcrowd the tank. These are territorial animals, and considering the size of some of the water in this tank easily turned out. So once they got to over 2 feet in length, I decided that I'm going to transport them to the local aquarium to have a larger space to live and finally throw them off to the public. They're now going to live amongst a large community tank 60 times the size of the original habitat they grew up in. They're still going to live together in this tank. They're also going to live with other aquatic animals, like fish, stingrays, and turtles, many of which are larger than them. They're now in a real ecosystem similar to where they would be in real life, and immediately became a huge draw for visitors, especially the Plesiosaur and Mosasaur, as no one had ever seen animals that looked like them before outside of the movie theater. And for the first few weeks, they were pretty tame, as after being fed a bunch of food that filled them up and having plenty of space to explore around and interact with new species, they were pretty happy for like a few weeks. But that soon changed, as they started to grow way faster than all the other animals in the tank, and went from being smaller than them, being significantly larger and more aggressive, and started to see their fellow tank mates as a gourmet meal. The Mosasaur and Megalodon were the first to start attacking and eat other large creatures in the tank, including turtles, stingrays, and fish of all sizes. But this was until they bumped into each other, and just like when they were babies, immediately got territorial. This tank wasn't big enough for both of them to live in, as they started to tear each other apart. The Kraken also started to get aggressive with other sea animals, and the aquarium staff quickly noticed this issue. It seemed that the 4 sea monsters were now the biggest roster of aquariums attendants. They needed to make sure that they all survived. So, they were moved off the sea monsters, and they're going to be transported to different habitats. The Megalodon was transported by boat into the largest tank of the aquarium, filled with larger predatory sharks, and a massive whale shark that was over 30 feet long. This is the biggest aquarium in the entire zoo, and has a bunch of space for him to grow into. And unlike in the previous habitat, there's a lot of animals that are stronger than him. The Kraken was also moved into a giant aquarium, and because he loved to destroy things, every night inside of his tank, there would be a show where a pirate ship would be dropped in, and he would destroy it in front of the guests. And he quickly became the most popular animal in the aquarium from destroying everything. Next, the Plesiosaur was the only creature who didn't attack his tank mates, so he was moved into this round community tank, filled with kelp and other sea animals. He's still one of the smallest animals in here, but he has a lot of room to grow and doesn't have to worry about the other sea monster's massive teeth. And finally, the Mosasaur was put in a private tank. After attacking other creatures in his previous aquarium, he was considered too violent to be kept with other animals, as unlike the Megalodon that for now looked like an everyday shark, the Mosasaur was an exotic creature that no one had ever seen before, so he was put into an underground, empty containment tank to be studied by scientists. There was nothing inside of here but concrete walls and water. And over the next few months, all the sea monsters started to adapt into their new homes, changing how they lived their life and growing a lot in the process. The Kraken was now a master at destroying ships, channeling his primal nature and growing a larger and larger audience, with people coming all around the world just to watch him destroy ships. And he grew a lot larger, with his tentacles growing from 3 feet long to over 30 feet long. And meanwhile, after the Plesiosaur had been eating a lot of fish, he had grown to over 15 feet long, becoming the largest creature in his aquarium and surrounded by crowds of people. But meanwhile, the Megalodon had been growing extremely fast. Using his aggressive nature to steal a lot of the other animals' foods, he had now become over 20 feet long and had grown the largest teeth in the entire aquarium. Because of this, the other sharks in the tank started to view him as their leader. He started to communicate with them and enjoyed the power that he felt over all the others. But he still wasn't the largest animal in the tank. The Megalodon attacked the whale shark that was almost 10 feet larger than him, causing a fight between the 2 largest creatures in the tank. and it ended with the Megalodon overpowering the gentle giant and providing a meal for himself and his now army of sharks that he had assembled in the tank. But while all this was happening to the three sea monsters, the Mosasaur hadn't been up to much fun. He was growing larger after being fed, but was fully alone in his concrete tank and did nothing but look at dark walls all day. This started to make him very angry, and started acting more aggressive when eating his food, and even started bashing the concrete walls of the tank, annoying the scientists that were trying to study him. He was angry and wanted nothing more than to get out of here. Similar to how soon, even after becoming the apex predator of the tank, the Megalodon was no longer satisfied with just ruling the tank, and all of a sudden started bashing the glass wall in the back. He had a clear view of the ocean from the back of his tank ever since he was added in, and after staring at it over the last few weeks, he wanted nothing more than to explore the ocean. His army of sharks joined in, and eventually, after smashing their heads and scratching the glass, it broke, and all three animals in the tank were free to venture off into the ocean, led by a now over 30-foot-long Megalodon. Over the next few weeks, following the Megalodon's breakout, the aquarium was spammed with safety complaints, and the number of visitors died down, all while the Kraken, Plesiosaur, and Mosasaur were growing larger and larger and needing more and more food to survive. And eventually, the staff decided that they couldn't risk another breakout, and the sea monsters could no longer be kept in captivity. They were loaded onto a boat, with the Plesiosaur and Mosasaur now over 30 feet long, and all three of them are going to be released into the ocean for the very first time. They immediately felt revealed after being released from a cramped glass container that the Mosasaur had spent the last few months locked in a dark concrete tank completely alone. The only interaction he had with other animals was ripping them to shreds when he was being fed. So now that he'd been finally released, he was filled with rage, and as soon as he spotted his old roommate, he attacked. The Mosasaur and Plesiosaur started fighting each other in the open ocean, with the Mosasaur having the power and anger advantage, but the Plesiosaur had the reach advantage. The Mosasaur was clearly winning the fight, but it was cut short, as a large blue whale started swimming through that part of the ocean with her kids and split apart the fight as they were swimming through. Even though both of these sea monsters are now over 30 feet long, they're still small compared to the giants of the sea, for now. And as soon as they were split apart, the Plesiosaur swam away into the blue, escaping from the fight and venturing off on his own. But while this was happening, I'm not really sure what the Kraken has been up to, but now that all four of the sea monsters are free in the big blue ocean, they ventured their separate ways, now having the largest body of water to grow into and hunting. But unlike the three that had just been released, the Megalodon had been free for many weeks now, and here's what he's been up to. The Megalodon had been exploring through the ocean, expanding his army of sharks and multiplying in size from all of the food. He is now over 60 feet long, and all the other sharks who passed by viewed him as their leader and joined the growing army that attacked boats, other large predators, and more, but he was about to reunite with an old friend. But while all that was happening, the Plesiosaur had swam closer to shallow water near an island to hunt. He ate fish, stingrays, and whatever smaller animals he could find, using his long neck to reach and grab the prey in his mouth. So even the shallower parts of the ocean weren't a peaceful place. This area was already infested with a large predator, crocodiles, who had never seen a creature like this and quickly ganged up on him. And with his neck bit, the Plesiosaur couldn't do much to fight back. But meanwhile, while the Megalodon and his growing army of sharks were destroying the submarine, the Mosasaur noticed them below him, immediately recognizing the Megalodon and charging at him, wanting to finally beat the animal that he has been fighting his whole life. The Megalodon immediately realized who this was and fought back. The Megalodon clearly had the advantage as he grew to over 15 feet larger from breaking into the ocean earlier and had his army of sharks that joined in to attack the Mosasaur, who is now getting overwhelmed and bit from all sides. But the fight caused a little too much of a scene, because they were fighting to the Kraken, who started grabbing sharks and pulling them down with his tentacles. And in the middle of the chaos, the bruised Mosasaur swam away safely, while the Megalodon was grabbed by a tentacle that he struggled to escape from. He managed to eventually fight it off, causing the Kraken to back off, and after the Megalodon ordered her ready to kidnap, and after losing sight of the Mosasaur, he was left angry for revenge. But meanwhile, Plesiosaur, after being knocked out and badly wounded from the crocodile attack, had been recovered by nearby villagers where he was being healed. However, once he woke up, he was immediately startled and jumped in the water. But he quickly realized that he was still alive thanks to the island villagers who had healed his neck that was previously chewed up like a dog bone by the crocodiles. So he slowly returned to shore, acting friendly to the humans that had rescued him. And over the course of the next few weeks, the Plesiosaur formed a bond with the villagers that lived on the island island and started to live in the water surrounding it. He helped the people living on the island hunt for fish, gather resources, and protected them from the crocodiles who previously ate many of their people and were their number one threat. He grew to be more experienced, stronger, and was able to throw the crocodiles around like dodgeballs. And in turn for protecting them, he had a home that he could stay in safely and was healed whenever wounded. He also made friends with some of the animals around the island, like some dolphins and large turtles, forming a community of animals and humans living in harmony. And meanwhile, the Megalodon had started to rebuild his army after the Kraken's attack, swimming through hundreds of miles of the ocean, gathering sharks along the way. But as his army of sharks grew, so did his aggression, as he started to attack larger targets, including a family of blue whales who, despite being bigger than the Megalodon, stood no chance, as this was a natural-born killer filled with rage and shark teeth. He now had an army of smaller versions of him at his command. The shark army also raided and destroyed large ships filled with humans, and now approaching a large oil rig. He started with crushing the pillars, causing the entire oil rig to collapse down with all of the people that were in it, and he and his army of sharks ate up everything that dropped below. And the Mosasaur, despite being solo, was up to the same. He was enraged from losing the fight with the Megalodon and started attacking everything he saw, including boats and even a helicopter. And after many months of this, he grew to almost 60 feet long and reached his adult size, capable of killing anything in the ocean. However, as he was swimming and exploring, he noticed a massive blue whale lying dead at the bottom of the ocean, with large shark bites all over it. He then noticed that the whale corpse wasn't the only one. The Megalodon and his army had been attacking every animal in their path, leaving them dead on the seafloor and destroying the ocean's ecosystem. The Mosasaur realized that he couldn't fight the Megalodon alone, as he had grown too strong, so he swam away from the graveyard of corpses and searched for an old friend. Meanwhile, the Kraken had swam down to the depths of the ocean and was eating large whales that he grabbed with his massive tentacles and even found an abandoned shipwreck to eat. He grew up destroying ships, so this was right up his alley. They should probably make a movie about this ship. And now, back to the Plesiosaur, he was still living in peace among the villagers on the island, being able to eat whatever he wanted, hanging out with the people, and living his dream life free of predators, until an old friend arrived. The Mosasaur had swam all the way to the island, and after many months apart, reunited with the Plesiosaur. But they didn't exactly end on the happiest note last time they were together, so the Plesiosaur, as soon as he saw him, was immediately defensive. The Mosasaur tried to explain to him that the Megalodon was destroying everything in the ocean and assembling every shark to join his army. He said that he couldn't beat the Megalodon alone, but if they teamed up, they may be able to stop him. But the Plesiosaur, after living his peaceful new life, wasn't looking to fight anyone, and told the Mosasaur to leave. And soon, the villagers also took note of the Mosasaur and were ready to shoot at him, just as some old friends were entering the island. The Mosasaur turned around after being pushed away, only to see his worst nightmare. The Megalodon and his army had swam to this part of the ocean and entered the island. They were the largest army that they had ever been at this point and immediately attacked. The Megalodon wanted to destroy all the other sea monsters that were a threat to him, and right now he's managed to corner two of them at once, with no place for them to escape. The sharks immediately swarmed the Mosasaur, overpowering him from all sides. The sharks also rushed at the Plesiosaur, who hadn't dealt with predators this aggressive in a long time, but he had help. The villagers assembled to defend their island and fired arrows and threw spears at the sharks. The dolphins living around the island that were friends with the Plesiosaur also helped attack the sharks. But it just wasn't enough. The Megalodon had cornered the Plesiosaur against the rock, completely overpowering him. And this time, he was going to finish him with the bite to the neck. But the Mosasaur swam in between, blocking the shot, and he was now face-to-face with the Megalodon, his number one enemy throughout his entire life that he's fought many times, except this time, he had the Plesiosaur by his side as they were on the same team and wanted to finish this monster once and for all. However, all this chaos had happened at the wrong time, because a hungry beast had just swam up to the surface. The Kraken, who is now larger than all the sea monsters put together, saw what was going on and decided to make it his personal display. He launched his tentacles into the fight, grabbing